So recently Google's Pixel Buds finally made it across the Atlantic to the UK after launching in the US seemingly yonks ago, but have they actually been worth the wait? Well, for one, they're certainly not cheap. They'll cost you 179 quid, which is the same as Samsung's fresh Galaxy Buds Live and a bit more than the Jabra Elite 75T, so I was certainly expecting a premium experience in all areas. But the good news is that the Google Pixel Buds are absolutely rammed full of features, some of them actually quite innovative, the kind of stuff you won't see on other True Wireless earbuds, although they aren't without their quirks, and not all of those features are quite perfectly implemented just yet. But anywho, I've had the Pixel Buds stuffed to my ears pretty much full time for the past week, so here's my in-depth review. And for more on the latest greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! Now first up, I've got to give a shout out to the case itself because it's pleasingly compact and just beautifully designed. The lid just flips up nicely, the hinge feels nice and strong, you just slip the buds out and then the Pixel Buds just sit nice and snug in your ears like so. Look, I say it's not the most elegant of designs as far as True Wireless earbuds go. I have been told that I basically look like somebody has come along and violently inserted a pair of soft mints into my ears. And sure, they're not quite as subtle as the likes of the Jabra Elites or the Samsung Galaxy Buds Live, but you know what, they don't jut out quite as badly as some True Wireless earbuds that I've tested. And at least they don't have that ridiculous cum drizzle stem thing dangling down from them like the bloody AirPods. And as well as the white models, you can also grab the Google Pixel Buds in black if you want to look like somebody's inserted a pair of Rolos into your ears instead. No complaints on the comfort though. I found the Pixel Buds were super comfy to rock in your locals all day long. And you've got 3 different sizes of rubbery tips as well, so you can find the ones that best match your own shape and size of local. Unfortunately though, the little rubbery hook bits, you've only got one of those. You can't change the size of that. Personally though, I found that those ear hooks did the job nicely for my own particular shape of ear. They held the Pixel Buds very, very still indeed. There's no shifting or anything involved whatsoever, and just to prove that, mosh test baby! And the Google Pixel Buds are fully IPX4 water and sweat resistant as well, so you can merrily mosh well into the wee hours, or you can skip happily down the street in the pouring rain, no worries. Now it's definitely worth pointing out early on that Google deliberately designed the Pixel Buds with a spatial vent built into each bud, so that means that environmental noise can infiltrate just to raise your awareness of what's going on around you. So that could be good if you're going to be using them in an office or somewhere, but it's not great if you want total immersion, you want to block out stuff on a commute or something like that. Especially not great if you're on a busy high street trying to listen to an audiobook or a podcast, because it means you have to bump up the volume quite a bit. Now when you first come to pair the Pixel Buds with your smartphone, it's an absolute piece of piddle. I felt that basically I just flicked up that lid and immediately I had a message pop up on my Android smartphone, which wasn't a Pixel by the way, saying do you want to connect to the Pixel Buds? Just tap that and away you go. If you ever need to reconnect to a different device, nice and easy, just stick the Pixel Buds back in the case. You've got a little button on that arse end right there, just give that a poke and you'll be able to pair up with another smartphone, no worries whatsoever. As for the connectivity, well, as you'd expect from a premium pair of True Wireless earbuds, that was absolutely flawless. You have to stray quite a distance from the source in order to get any kind of stuttering or anything. Unfortunately, I didn't get the chance to stress test the Pixel Buds because of course there aren't really any busy train stations or airports that I fancy hanging around in these days. But touch wood, that shouldn't be an issue. Now the surface of each of the Pixel Buds also operates as a kind of touchpad as well. Just a single tap will pause or play your music. You can double tap to skip a track, or you can triple tap in order to go back a track. And at any point if you want to conjure up the Google Assistant, well that's just a long press. And you've even got fast access to volume controls as well. All you need to do is swipe forward across either of the buds in order to raise the volume and swipe backwards in order to lower it. And I found that in terms of the responsiveness and everything, spot on. Absolutely every time I tried to tap, double tap, etc., it just seemed to work. There was no learning curve or anything like that involved. But there was one slight issue. When you do tap to resume your music, it makes this little dinking sound in your ear. And I found that on most smartphones I was paired to, it was kind of mildly irritating. I'm not even sure why it's there to be honest, but on a couple of smartphones I paired to, it seemed to increase in volume, so it made a really loud plunk in your ear as soon as you wanted to resume your music, which is obviously slightly horrible. It was actually painfully loud, so I just stopped using it. So fingers crossed you won't have that issue on your particular mobile of choice. And each of these buds also have a built-in sensor as well, so they can detect when you've yanked them out of your local, and they will auto pause your music and then shove them back in, and they will auto resume. And that's an optional feature as well, so you can knock it off in the Google Pixel Buds app if you want. And speaking of that app, it's definitely one of the better ones around as far as True Wireless Earbuds go. As you can see, you can have a quick squint at how much battery life you've got remaining. You've got fast access to all of your Google Assistant settings. You can actually ring the buds, rather amusingly, if you lose them, although obviously you'll only really be able to detect the noise if you're very close to them indeed. And you've got access to a whole bunch of other features as well, which I will touch on as we're going along. One of the more unique features found here on the Google Pixel Buds is the adaptive sound. And what this can do is automatically raise or lower the volume depending on how much environmental noise there is. It tends to work pretty well. I found that if I'm at a train station, a train's roaring by, it does boost up the volume a bit, lots of traffic, stuff like that. Admittedly, it did occasionally bump the volume up when somebody was just chatting slightly in another part of the room. So it's not quite the finished article, but it's a handy feature to have turned on, especially if you're always, flitting from indoors to outdoors, stuff like that. And Google has also implemented an experimental attention alerts feature here on the Pixel Buds as well. It's one of the new additions. And what this is supposed to do is basically dramatically lower the volume if it detects that there's a baby crying or a dog barking in the near vicinity. Does this work? Not really, to be perfectly honest. I found that occasionally it did lower the volume when I was literally right next to the source of the disturbance, pretty much pressing the buds up against it. But to be honest, more often than not, it just raised the volume using that adaptive sound feature instead. So, meh. A feature that is good though is that the Pixel Buds can automatically detect if you're actually sharing one of the buds with a friend to watch a movie or just enjoy some music or whatever, and then allows you to independently control the volume of each bud separately. So that's a really good feature that I haven't seen anywhere else. And of course, you've got full Google Assistant support on here as well. You can either just press and hold on one of the buds, otherwise you can say, "Hey," and the little blight will start listening. I thought that worked absolutely fine. You can also be notified whenever one of your favorite apps has a notification pop into it as well. The Google Assistant can do a little dink in your ear, tell you, oh, something's waiting from Zoho Mail or whatever, and then you can long press again to actually get a readout of the subject and sometimes a bit of the actual content of the mail as well. And you can actually select from a list which apps you should be disturbed for, so you can get rid of all the stuff that you're not really that bothered about. And I found it worked absolutely fine for the majority of apps. The only one I struggled with was Messenger. For some reason I never got notified whenever a Messenger message popped up onto my phone. And the Pixel Buds also support translation via the Google Translate app as well, so you can actually get real-time translations into your ear. But I don't really see the point of it, to be honest, because you still have to have the app open on your smartphone at the same time, so you might as well just basically be holding out the phone with the loudspeaker on, so you and whichever foreign person you're speaking to can have a proper conversation. Until Google can basically turn these things into real-life babelfish, I'm not really that bothered. But the audio quality here on the Pixel Buds definitely gets a big thumbs up from me. It's not the absolute best around, the likes of the Jabra Elite 75Ts, very, very strong indeed. And the Beats, of course, great stuff. But these are very, very good indeed as well. I found that on a couple of my phones there was a slight hissing in the background when I was playing audio via them, which you can't detect when you're listening to music, but when you are listening to audiobooks or podcasts, you can sort of pick up on it in the little pauses. But apart from that, the full range is successfully covered. Vocals sound really, really good, and Google has just added a bass boost feature in the latest update as well, and that really helps with your rock tracks, your dance, all that kind of stuff, and a nice bit of oomph, and thankfully without sacrificing the mid to high range quality as well. And the call quality is also superb here on the Pixel Buds as well, so if you make a lot of phone calls, definitely good stuff. Apparently my voice was picked up with crystal clear clarity even when there was a fair bit of background rumble, and I could hear the other person fine as well. Great stuff. Unfortunately, one of my major bugbears with the Google Pixel Buds is the battery life. It's a bit all over the place. Sometimes I got close to 5 hours of life before they needed to be stuck back in the case. Other times it was closer to sort of 3.5, and I'm not really sure what the differential factor was, as I wasn't constantly toggling the different features on and off. And I also found that occasionally the battery life on one of the buds would decrease at a more rapid rate than the other, so you'd end up with one bud on about 60% life and the other one on about 40. So basically the Pixel Buds would be no good for you if you are gonna be doing a lot of long haul flights, or you're the kind of person who likes to have them in all afternoon just listening to tunes while you're getting on with a bit of work or whatever. Now, a lot of rivals these days offer at least 6 hours of battery life quite dependably, and if you look to the likes of the Creative Outlet Golds and stuff like that, you can get 10 hours plus on a single charge, so those will definitely suit people who use them all day long. And also check in the battery life on your buds is nice and easy. You can just say, hey, what's the battery life on my buds? And when they do start to run dry, you can of course just slip them back in the very adorable case. You've actually got two LED lights here on the case as well. You've got one up at the top which tells you how charged the buds themselves are. That'll flash white when they're done. And then you've got another one here on the case itself, and that will again be white when it's fully charged. And as you can see, it's gone down to orange, so that means it needs a recharge sort of fairly soon. And the case can charge the buds several times before it itself will need a recharge. I've found that it lasted me basically Monday through Friday with plenty of use. You don't have to worry about doing it too often. And when it does come time to charge the case, you've got a bit of Type-C USB connectivity down below. Otherwise, you can also charge them up wirelessly, which is particularly handy if you've got a smartphone with reverse wireless charging, something like one of the Samsung Galaxy flagships. Just bung it on the back of there and you can charge it on the go. And that right there is my full review of the Google Pixel Buds after a couple of updates and a few new features and improving the overall performance. As you can see, they're generally very good, but I do have a couple of qualms, mainly the battery life and the fact, of course, that they do not completely block out everything going on around you as well, which will be good for some. Others who want a bit more peace and quiet, not so great. So that's what I think, but what do you think? Have you been using the Pixel Buds? Be great to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Please do poke subscribe, ding that notifications bell, and have yourselves a lovely rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you.